Alright, so in one of my previous videos, I showed you guys the day count from this Feast of Trumpets, September 15th, to next year, 2024, April 8th, which is the total solar eclipse. And it is also the first day of the Hebrew New Year, Nisan 1. The day count from these 2 days is 206. The number 206 in the concordance is the word akron, and it means the end. And it also means the highest extreme point of a climax. Okay, so that was pretty amazing. And I showed you how that matches up with Daniel chapter 12 verse 4, when Daniel's told to seal up the books until the end. And he says they shall be going to and fro. Now the connection that I did not make at the time, because it didn't come to me, but it came to me today, was in Matthew chapter 24, when they asked Jesus, when shall come the end? There's that term, the end, used again. And the interesting thing is that this is in Matthew chapter 24. Hence 2024. Very amazing to me. And this term, the end, it turns out, the word akron, the end, is used at the rapture, speaking in Matthew 24. When he speaks of the rapture. He shall send his angels from one end of the heaven to the other, the four winds of heaven, one end of the heaven to the other, and gather his elect. Well, this is the word that is used for that, akron. So that's an interesting connection too. And we know that the solar eclipse makes an X across America with the solar eclipse 7 years ago. And the solar eclipse 7 years ago was a once in every 100-year solar eclipse. And where they meet, it's a place called Little Egypt. And again, this is tied in with the book of Exodus. Little Egypt, when they were led out of Egypt and by God. So the Exodus, that's what it's called. And America is a type and shadow of Egypt. That's why we have a pyramid on our dollar bill. You know, we have very similar attributes of Egypt and Rome and Babylon all in one. So that was a very interesting connection to me, is that Matthew 24 also, you find the term the end there. Not only in the end of the world, but from one end of the heaven to the other in Matthew 24. I'm talking about the rapture, gathering his elect. So this is very interesting to me. So could the rapture be in 2024, not 2025? It could be. I don't claim to know everything perfectly. I see it in 2025 with many other patterns. But the interesting thing about this is that when we go back to the story in Genesis 45 about the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine, and it says that after 2 years, I've said it before, but 2 years in to the 7-year famine, this would be the 7-year famine total, but 2 years in to the famine, there was a great deliverance. So 2 years into the last 7 years here would be exactly right there at that eclipse, because Nisan 1 is where the new year starts, and 2 years into the last 7 years, the Shemitah would be right here, exactly right there. So that's really crazy to me too, is how all this is matching up with the end. And that would be exactly just like in Genesis 45, 2 years into the famine, the great deliverance. Well, this would be 2 years into the last 7 years also, right at this solar eclipse. That's pretty wild to me. So could there be, and then Passover is right after this, right? So Passover is like a week after this, a week and a half after this. So, I mean, and I do believe that the rapture is at Passover, not the Feast of Trumpets. I just thought it was in 2025, which it still could be. But it could be here too. I mean, this is another pattern for a rapture right there too, a great deliverance. It could be. But I strongly believe it's going to be at Passover. So that's one pattern for a rapture right there. Right there at that eclipse or a little past it in Passover. Definitely a possibility. Not this Feast of Trumpets though, I don't believe that. But honestly, my heart is in 2025 because of all the patterns that I've seen. Matthew chapter 25 talks about the rapture, the 5 virgins and the other 5 virgins. So you have all these patterns. And then we have in Revelation chapter 12, another pattern for 24. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, which is, that's 24, right? And you have the devil coming down to earth, and woe to the earth, the inhabitants of the earth, in Revelation 12:12. And then 12 times 12 is also 144. So you have a connection with Revelation chapter 7, when the 144,000 Israelites are sealed in their forehead with the seal of God, right at the 6th seal. So the rapture could be in 2024 too. But I know that the 2024 is the 6th seal. This is also matching up with 6th seal 2024. So a lot of connections here, man. A lot of connections. And then if you follow it down, you go to verse 13 and on, you see this pattern. Very interesting pattern that lines up with the years. So, it could be the rapture next year, 2024. I think it's 2025, but it could be. The Freemason idealism. It is order out of chaos. You see, they have to create the chaos in order to bring in the New World Order, right? So in Latin, it's called ordo ab chaos. But that's what's going on. As we can see, it's all manufactured. They're bringing America to its knees so that when the year of the snake comes, 2025, on the Chinese calendar, they can bring in the serpent from the garden. Right? It's all a repeat. That's why Hebrew year is 360 degrees. It all repeats itself. Isaiah 46:10, God declares the end from the beginning. Right? Ecclesiastes 1:9, what was done will be done again. There's no new thing under the sun. And look at the sun. It's a circle too, right? Right? Everything repeating itself. Just like if you look at the NASA logo, it's a serpent. And the serpent is eating its own tail. So you see the serpent, it goes around and eats its own tail, right? Showing you this loop. Almost like a time loop. That's where they get reincarnation from. It's like we're in this time loop, in this snow globe time loop type of thing. So, that's where we're at.